This is the story of David and Goliath, a tale of unmatched courage, unwavering faith, and a lesson for all who struggle against life's greatest challenges. It happened in Israel, during a time when the land shook in fear under the echoes of war. The Philistines and the Israelites were locked in a standoff. On one side of the valley stood the army of Israel, and on the other, the Philistines. The balance tipped when the Philistines brought forth their champion, Goliath. Clad in bronze armor, with a spear as tall as a tree and a shield-bearer by his side, Goliath was no ordinary warrior. He was a giant among men, nearly 10 feet tall, and his booming voice caused even the bravest warriors of Israel to shudder. For 40 days, Goliath mocked the Israelites. "Why have you come out to line up for battle?" he bellowed. "Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man to come down and fight me. If he's able to kill me, we'll be your slaves, but if I kill him, then you'll be ours." The Israelites? Silent. Soldiers who had once fought for their king and God were paralyzed by fear. Among them sat King Saul, helpless to rally his men or find a solution. Word of Goliath's taunts reached far and wide until they found the ears of a young shepherd boy named David. David wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for war. He cared for sheep in the quiet hills outside Bethlehem. But David loved God deeply, and his faith was unshakable. He had fought lions and bears to protect his flock, and he had prevailed, not by his strength, but by his faith in God's protection. When David arrived in the Israelite camp bringing food for his older brothers, he couldn't believe the scenes of fear he witnessed. "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" David questioned. His brothers dismissed him. "You're just a boy," they said. "What do you know about war?" But David persisted. His heart burned with righteous anger at Goliath's blasphemies against God. Word eventually reached King Saul, and David stood before the troubled monarch and offered himself as a willing champion. "You can't fight him," Saul protested. "You're only a youth, and he's been a warrior since his youth." David stood firm. "The Lord, who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear, will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Inspired by David's faith, Saul agreed and offered him his armor. But the armor proved too heavy for the shepherd boy, so David cast it aside. Armed only with his sling, 5 smooth stones, and the ever-present peace of God in his heart, David stepped onto the battlefield. Picture it: a vast valley surrounded by thousands of onlookers. Goliath's shadow stretched long, menacing as he thundered across the battlefield. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" the giant sneered as David approached. "Come here. I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." Calm yet unyielding, David stood undeterred. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today, the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down. The whole world will know there's a God in Israel." The two combatants inched closer. Then, with a skill born of years tending his flock, David loaded a single stone into his sling. He twirled it, faster and faster, until he released it with precision. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath squarely on the forehead. The giant swayed, staggered, and fell face first to the ground. Silence fell over the valley. The Philistines stood frozen, their champion defeated not by a soldier, but by a shepherd boy armed with faith and courage. David rushed forward, took Goliath's sword, and used it to finish what he had started. The Philistine army scattered in fear. David's victory was more than a physical triumph. It was a testimony to the power of faith, the belief that God can use the smallest and least likely among us to accomplish great things. It's a story of standing firm in your beliefs even when the odds seem insurmountable. It's about knowing that giants, no matter how intimidating, are no match for the Lord. And the lesson for us today? Life will throw its own Goliaths at you. Challenges, fears, and obstacles that seem immovable and undefeatable. But like David, you aren't limited by your size, strength, or position. When you place your trust in God, you carry within you a power far greater than any earthly force. Let this story remind you, with God on your side, no giant is too great to overcome.